Welcome to the first episode of LDOE Log, an informational series all about Last Day on Earth. And in this first episode, we're going to be taking a look at fishing, which has been out in the game for quite a bit now. And I'm going to divide this video into two parts. First, we'll take a look at fishing, the gear and the fish we'll meet, and then we'll take a look at the recipes that we can make with the fish. But before we get too far into the video, let's take a look at why you would want to learn about fishing. Now, the recipes that you can make with the fish can help you increase your resource gathering gains, can help you when breeding dogs. They can also help you when clearing more difficult content in the game, and they've got many more useful applications as well. So I feel that learning about fishing is actually pretty worthwhile. Now, in Last Day on Earth, there are currently 6 different kinds of fish that you can catch. There are perch, carp, salmon, pike, catfish, and the sturgeon. And I've color-coded all of these on their difficulty to catch and all the gameplay elements that go into catching them. Now, before you can even start thinking about fishing, you will need to have the Fisherman's skill unlocked in your skill tree, and you could also go for the Fisherman's luck or the fishing skill and level those up to make the experience a little bit easier as well. So, once you've got that initial Fisherman skill unlocked, these fishing locations will pop up on the map, and you'll know that it's ready when this little event notification shows up in your Last Day on Earth screen. And there's a couple different fishing locations that you can visit, but the most important information that I can give you about these is that one requires you to wear 3 pieces of fur armor so that you don't freeze while fishing. I found that out the hard way. So if you go to the fishing location that's above the red oaks and nestled between the winter zone, you will need 3 pieces of fur armor. And the process of catching fish is really straightforward. You just tap on the little hook icon and keep that little orange bubble over the fish until the green meter fills up on the side of the fishing display. Pretty straightforward. So there are a few pieces of gear that you can take with you when fishing. These are all optional. The first one being the professional fishing rod, then the grenade, Burley, and the professional fishing hat. And we'll take a look at each of these items individually. And first off, we'll start with the professional fishing rod. So there are 2 different kinds of fishing rods in Last Day on Earth. First off, we have the standard fishing rod, which you can craft. And then we have the professional fishing rod, which is a paid-for option. And we'll compare these two to see if it's actually worth paying for the professional fishing rod. Now, the main difference we can see here between the professional and the standard is that the professional fishing rod has a larger orange bubble, and that extra size can actually make it a bit easier to catch fish, and we'll see that here in practice with the professional fishing rod being on the top display and the standard being on the bottom. And we're catching the same species of fish here, both gold rated, and you'll want to pay attention to this little green meter on the side of the fish meter. That lets us know how close we are to catching the fish. When it fills all the way up, we've caught the fish. So I'm going to go ahead and unfreeze the video at the same time, and we're going to take a look at the speed difference of these 2 rods. And I tried to keep the fish in the middle on both of them, and I think the test is pretty fair. As you can see, we caught it quite a bit quicker with the professional fishing rod, and I personally feel that it is worth a few extra bucks. That's just me though. And next up we have the Fisherman's hat, which reads, "They say it has to do with luck when fishing, but we're not sure of that." With that last bit being kind of interesting because honestly I'm not sure if it increases your luck while fishing, but due to the wording here, I'm pretty sure it does, but personally I can't really confirm that. So that one's a little bit up in the air. Maybe I could get your feedback on that. Now, the next item here is Burley, and you can use Burley once all the fish in a pond have been fished out, and then all the fish will return once you sprinkle some Burley on the water. That one's pretty straightforward. It is worth mentioning that the professional fishing rod, the hat, and the Burley can all be purchased in the Fisherman's pack for $2.99, or you could also get some of these items in season passes. So you've got a couple different options there for getting them. And the last item that we can take with us is the grenade. Now, there are a lot of people saying that you can use grenades when fishing, but honestly, if you're just using them to speed up the process of fishing, I think there's better use case scenarios like Bunker Alpha, PD, or even raids, but that's just my thoughts on the matter. So, we took a look at the professional fishing rod, the grenade, Burley, and the hat, and the last part of fishing information is the chest that you can obtain while fishing. So while you're fishing, sometimes a chest will pop up, and it's important to remember that we actually do have a recipe that pertains to this, which can increase your chances of getting chests, which actually have some half-decent items. These are items that the community has mentioned that they've got, and items that I've personally got. Now, as you can see here on this meter, you do want to pay attention to the chest meter as well. Your primary focus is going to be on catching the fish, because if the fish gets away, you don't get the chest. So hopefully the fish hovers around the chest for a bit and unlocks the chest while you're catching the fish in the process. Remember to focus on the fish first. And now we'll move on to the recipe portion of the video, and it is worth mentioning that you do need to build a kitchen stove first before you can cook recipes. Fish rarity affects the buff duration of these recipes. Recipes cannot be stored, they have to be eaten right off the stove. And last but not least, some ingredients do require that you have the ATV. And we're going to cover all of these aspects in more detail because some of them probably don't make sense right now. So here we've got the full list of recipes in Last Day on Earth, and if you're interested, I always write about the informational topics on my website pressingx.com before I make videos on them. So this article actually covers all the recipes a good week before I made this video. Just a little aside there. And back on these recipes, one that I actually found really interesting and that's really helpful is making less noise on a raid for 20 minutes. So this means you can break more chests, get more loot, break down more walls with less of a penalty. Now, these red highlighted ones here are ones that require you to have the ATV to get the ingredients for them. So, after taking a look at this recipe list, I'd be really interested in knowing what your favorite recipes are and what kind of use case scenarios do you use the recipes in. So, for example, if we're at Blackport PD, we've got a recipe here that increases movement speed, and I could see that being useful at Blackport PD for getting ahead of the waves a bit quicker and being able to have more time to fire off shots and speeding up the overall process. So I'd really be interested in knowing what scenarios you can think of. And now let's take a look at that connection between fish rarity and recipe buff duration. As you can see, our bronze recipe has a duration of 20 minutes, the silver 25, and the gold 30. So what's important to remember here is that if you're cooking with a bronze fish, the duration of the buff from your recipe is going to have less time than if you were, say, cooking with a goldfish. Goldfish provide the longest duration, and those are the recipes that I try to cook the most often. And that wraps up the first episode of LDOE Log. Thank you so much for watching this. This is a brand new series. I'm just trying it out. I've previously done a series like this on Fallout Shelter, and that went pretty well. And I've been planning other series of informational videos for other games as well. Now, if you're interested in more Last Day on Earth content, like I said earlier, I always write articles about the topics that I think about covering in videos. And so you can find a lot more information on other mobile games and Last Day on Earth at pressingx.com. Thanks so much and have a great day.